All right, well, let's start with a question from Andrew.
All right.
Would you please explain what you mean by, quote, some things have to be wicked or bad or evil in themselves? If I am paraphrasing William Lane Craig correctly, or maybe Frank Turek, quote, evil is not a thing in itself, but rather evil is the deprivation of a good thing, end quote. We know good is grounded in God's nature. How can evil be something in itself instead of a lack of good? And Greg, this comes from a quote from STRU, which is STR University, on our website. And
which is not a real university, just in case someone's confused. We give no degrees.
No. It's a bunch of training courses that you can go through. It's free, and just get there by training.str.org. You can go straight there, set up an account. What are some of the courses that we have on there?
Well, we have the Ambassador course in Tactics and the Problem of Evil. John Noyce does that. And this one about atheism that I do called Atheism Bumping into Reality. Story of Reality. Those are, I'm thinking of the ones I've done. Alan Schleiman has done a couple of them. Tim has done one on truth, the nature of truth. And so I think we've got like 8 or 9 and already done, and there are a number of in the queue. So, yeah, it's great because there are like 5 or 6 sessions. They're 7 to 15 minutes each, max. There's a little testing feature at the end, and then you move on to the next one. It's meant to give you the basics on these different issues. There is no charge for them. It is behind the registration, but that's okay. It's easy to do, and then you're in. You apply, and you get accepted, and off you go.
All right, so we encourage you to check that out. But meanwhile, now we have to come back to this question. Hopefully you can still remember it, Greg. In a nutshell, he wants to know, how can evil be something in itself instead of a lack of good?
Okay, this is a good question. I'm very glad to be able to make a clarification on this. And Bill Craig and Frank Turek are correct. I make the same point, and this goes back a long ways to Augustine, the first one that I know made the characterization that evil is privation. Everything that God made is good, and then it gets broken, so to speak. And so when it's broken, then something has been lost that creates circumstances that we call evil. And the way I put it in one talk is, did you ever eat a donut hole? And the answer is, well, you can't eat a donut hole. I mean, I don't mean those little cut bombs that you get at church, those round things. I mean a donut hole, because the donut hole is where the donut ain't. But we can refer to the donut hole, just like we do to shadows, in virtue of something that's missing. The donut in the case of the stuff in the middle of the donut, in the case of the donut, where the donut ain't, that's the donut hole, or where light ain't, that's a shadow. So this understanding of evil helps us to characterize, or at least begin to address the issue of evil by not dealing with evil as a thing in itself, okay? As philosophers would say, it has no ontological status. Evil doesn't have existence, but it is a word that we use and a condition in which good is missing. So when I say in the class on atheism bumping into reality, and I'm talking about the bump of bad, that is the reality of evil in the world, okay, and I'm asking which worldview is better suited to address that problem, the atheistic worldview or the theistic worldview. That's the direction I'm going with that line of thinking. We need to understand that when I say evil in the world, I am not speaking of the evil as a thing in the world, but a circumstance that is real in the world, that is a circumstance that is evil itself, because, to be most precise, it lacks the goodness that it used to have, or something like that. Okay? It is an example of a lack of goodness, all right? It's not the way things are supposed to be. So the reason this is an important move is we don't want to think of evil as a kind of a stuff. It's floating around the universe, glomming onto people and things and making them evil like itself. No, it's not a stuff. By the way, if it is a stuff, then it had to be created. And if God created everything, then God created evil. And that's the problem, if evil is a thing. But evil's not a thing. It's a circumstance. But the circumstances, and this is what's key, Amy, here, the circumstances that we refer to as evil have to be features of the objective world. They are not mind dependent, they are mind independent. Now, when I say that 31 flavors Jamocha almond fudge ice cream is delicious, this is mind dependent. If my mind disappears, then that deliciousness, that judgment, disappears. Or if I don't think it's delicious, then it's not to me. But if I say rape is wrong, or if there's a claim that rape is wrong, then rape is either right or wrong. Even if some people, some minds think it's okay, that doesn't make it okay because it is not mind dependent or dependent on the people. It is a feature or a property of the action itself. And if everybody thought rape is fine, rape would still be bad. If it is bad in itself, it would be a condition that we characterize as evil, but what we don't mean is that some evil stuff latched itself onto a sexual act. The important thing here is, for my argument for God, which is the standard moral argument, if there is no God, then there is no objective morality. That is, there is nothing that is immoral in itself, and nothing good in itself either, by the way. But there is objective morality. How do we know that? The problem of evil. What's the problem of evil? It's acts that are characterized by people as evil in the world, and that follow this characterization of evil that I just mentioned. So I'm not saying anything different from what I've said or others have said in the past. It's just a manner of speaking. When I say there's evil in the world, I am talking about the evil circumstances, okay? And the evil is not simply an assessment of the mind, because when the mind changes or disappears, then the assessment that goes with it would disappear too. That would be relativism or subjectivism. And the easiest way, or the crispest way probably to characterize the difference between relativism and objectivism in morality is that relativism is mind-dependent, or the right or wrong is inside of the believer. It's an assessment merely inside. It doesn't say anything about the outside world. It says something about the opinions of the subject, the individual, where objectivism, right or wrong, that concept is resident is on the outside. These are qualities of certain actions or circumstances, regardless of what people think about them. They are mind independent.
So basically what you're saying is that when you say in itself, you're talking about it objectively lacking good. You're making a comment on the objective nature. That's correct.
Yeah, and I'm not just talking about my truth. All right. Mm-hmm. And by the way, that is what everyone is referring to, whether they have a sophisticated sense of it or not, when they talk about evil in the world. This is why they say, how could there be so much evil in the world? They are talking about something they think is outside of themselves, not just merely something inside, like they don't happen to like Brussels sprouts or something, or liver and onions or something. They are talking about something that is actually bad.